I tied my dad to a tree, kept beating him for 7 days straight. On the 7th night, he finally snapped and told me the whole truth. He claimed our family controls a secret billionaire system passed down for 100 generations. He swore that all the wealth on Earth combined could never match ours. Honestly, I didn't believe a single word of his crazy story. My mom sat nearby, completely calm like she always was. She told me not to be so shocked. I asked if my grandfather was still alive. Dad said yes, but added that he left Earth a long time ago. Mom nodded, whispering that they could not feel his presence anymore. I called it impossible. There is simply no other planet out there where humans could actually survive. My reaction did not shock my mother at all. She opened her hands and stated plain as day, "Our family is not normal. We do not age. We live for hundreds of years. Some even live for thousands of years." She said the absolute power we hold is beyond my imagination. Right then, my dad brought out something bizarre. A syringe glowing bright blue. Holding it, he told me that the second this liquid hit my veins, I would understand everything. He announced that all family assets were now in my name. I stared at our tiny, broken-down house and asked him, "What massive wealth?" He pulled out a heavy black card, told me this piece of plastic guarantees VIP treatment anywhere in the world, said to check the balance if I doubted him. He tossed it over, so I quickly loaded up my banking app. I started counting the zeros glowing on the screen. 8 zeros. I figured this had to be a total fake. I looked up and asked, exactly how much cash does our family actually own? They just traded looks. Dad said they did not even know the exact number, but no one on Earth had more than us. Sitting right there in our cramped, messy living room, everything suddenly shifted. My brain completely froze up. I could not even process it. I suddenly remembered this viral video where a super rich kid bragged online. He claimed he did not care if his friends were broke or loaded, simply because nobody alive could ever possibly be richer than him anyway. My parents just stood by the door. Their completely deadpan faces somehow made this wild story feel real. Dad looked right at me and said, "One day you will be exactly like us, completely free from the rules of this world." Mom casually pointed up at the sky. She told me to come find them whenever living on Earth got too boring. I opened my mouth to argue, but without a single word, Dad jammed that glowing syringe straight into my arm. A brutal flash of pain hit me, then total numbness. I collapsed. Through my blurry vision, I saw my parents standing side by side as a blinding light consumed them from behind. By the time I finally opened my eyes again, I was somewhere entirely different, bathed in blue light. Words floated right in front of my face, Tycoon System unlocking. A massive wave of pure wealth energy ripped through my entire body. And then, I shot awake. I was lying in my own bed. My heart was absolutely hammering. Was it all just a crazy dream? No. I remembered every single word. The unlimited money, the wild power, and a grandfather lost somewhere deep in the stars. I leaped straight out of bed and started frantically searching for my parents. I tore through every single room, shouting their names, but their bedroom was completely empty, the bed untouched. Suddenly, a glowing blue screen flashed across the room. A robotic voice echoed out, "No need to search. The 99th host has already left to find the 98th. It all hit me then. This was real. That massive billionaire family system my parents had bragged about was hovering right in front of my face. I held my breath. The system spoke again. "Once your authority level ranks up high enough, you can leave this planet and track them down." Then it flashed a new prompt. Spend money. Flex your wealth. I stared at the glowing screen. So this was my new reality. My ex dumped me because I was broke. But with this kind of infinite cash, that would never happen again. The very first mission popped up. Prove to the entire world that I am the richest man alive. Deadline, 1 year. I paced around, wondering exactly where to begin. Dropping crazy cash was the objective. Sure, but on what? A supercar, a mansion. Those basic ideas popped up first. I had been an average guy my entire life. Spending on a massive scale was completely foreign to me. Just brainstorming gave me a headache. Suddenly, the system chimed in. Beginner mission. Drop $10 million on a live stream platform. Reward. Your physical body becomes twice as strong. 10 million. I bolted upright. I had never seen that kind of cash. Up until today, the largest stack of cash I ever handled was my miserable college tuition. But $10 million was just pocket change on this heavy black card. I walked over to the window and stared out at the sprawling city. The world did not look the same anymore. The Tycoon System was literally begging me to go out and burn cash. 10 million was absolutely nothing. The AI casually mentioned that our secret businesses generate $20 million every single second. Golden profit numbers filled the air around me, ticking up so insanely fast I could not even track the math. This billionaire system had zero shame. Out of nowhere, the voice asked me, "What is your ultimate dream car?" Without blinking, I blurted out, "Apollo Sun God." Instantly, a golden spinning hologram of that hypercar materialized in my bedroom. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. I answered it, and heard a very polished voice on the line. "Are you Mr. Chen? We have fully prepped your custom luxury sports car." The guy said they were just calling to arrange the VIP delivery drop-off. I totally froze. I never actually placed an order. I had literally only spoken the car's name out loud. Did the system just buy it for me? How on earth was that even possible? I sat heavily on the bed, staring blankly at my screen. The dealer was still talking. Custom design, smart controls, top-of-the-line features. His tone was perfectly calm and professional. He promised they would deliver the vehicle to me in just 2 weeks. I told him to call back whenever it was ready to ship. He quickly replied, "Serving you is our highest absolute honor." I honestly still felt like I was sleepwalking through a wild dream. But wait, something felt off. Hand-building a hypercar like that normally takes 6 months to a year. So how was mine shipping in 2 weeks? "Bro," the system smoothly replied, "I own 70% of every major sports car brand on Earth. 90% of their total profits funnel straight back to me. Who would ever dare make you wait in a line?" I stayed completely silent. Was I really the ultimate boss of all those legendary brands? Ferrari, Rolls-Royce, Aston Martin, Pagani. The AI just kept rattling off iconic names. They belonged to me. And yet, even adding all of them together, they barely made up 8% of my total net worth. I finally grasped just how filthy rich our bloodline really was. My brain basically blue-screened. Trying to process that level of wealth all at once was impossible. But suddenly, the math got very simple. 10 million bucks meant absolutely zero to me. If my bank account was literally bottomless, I was going to spend without an ounce of fear. I snatched my phone off the desk, loaded up a live stream app, and smashed the massive top-up button. Dropped 5 million right then and there. The screen erupted into glowing gold. Somewhere online, a random viewer caught the VIP alert and desperately started searching for whoever just casually blew $5 million. A 2-year-old profile with zero spending history. He was totally confused. Meanwhile, I sat in my room, smirking at the glowing screen. People online were calling me an absolute fool. Some trolls were even claiming that I clearly embezzled corporate funds. I was reading every single comment and grinning like crazy, though my hands were legitimately shaking. A small part of my brain still could not accept what I just did. I firmly pressed my hands over my face. $5 million completely gone with one tiny tap. But then I looked back up. This was barely the warm-up. You will get used to it, the Tycoon System teased. I grabbed my head and let out a huge sigh. Absolutely everything had changed way too fast. But it was summer break and I had zero plans anyway. Out of pure habit, I pulled up a gaming stream. My favorite creator, Teacher Pooh. He mostly did hilarious comedy gaming content and I had been a loyal viewer for months. I used to only send him those cheap free gifts. Today, the rules were different. I instantly fired off about 8,000 premium panda gifts at once, over $500,000 worth. I crossed my arms and leaned all the way back. Suddenly, burning cash did not feel terrifying at all. On the broadcast, Teacher Pooh nearly vaulted straight out of his gaming chair. The live chat was scrolling so insanely fast, it just looked like a blurry rainbow of colors. The viewers went crazy. Where did this mystery billionaire come from? I sat back with folded hands, watching the absolute chaos. This flex was way more fun than playing any game. Across the screen, Teacher Pooh finally steadied himself back into his gaming chair. He had seen big spenders before, but never anything close to this level. He just stared blankly at his monitor in pure disbelief. "Thank you so much, boss." He screamed straight into his microphone. "I am promoting you to head moderator right now." He laughed breathlessly. "We can squad up and play games together. Add me to the private chat, bro." A few minutes later, that shiny moderator badge popped onto my profile. Without overthinking it, I sent the contact over. I messaged her, saying maybe I'd visit her city and buy her dinner sometime, but right now I wanted to check out other rooms. Then I opened another live stream and dropped 1,000 more pandas. I leaned back, resting my chin on my hand. That old fear of spending money was completely gone now. I pulled up my follow list and started hunting for my next target. Another streamer I knew was currently online, a girl named Shinyu. She played the piano and sang every single night. She was sitting at her grand piano, warm light spilling through the window right behind her. I closed my eyes, just letting her voice wash over me. Listening to her voice today made everything else fade away. But her chat room wasn't quiet at all, and it wasn't because of her usual fans. A massive crowd had followed me there. Everyone wanted to see the big spender in action. Everyone had the exact same question in mind. Was I going to do it again? Well, they didn't have to wait long. Her viewer count suddenly skyrocketed to 60,000. I honestly couldn't help but smile at the absolute chaos. I picked up my phone without saying a word. Another 1,000 pandas. Shinyu froze right in the middle of her song. Her hands flew to her mouth. She grabbed a calculator. 500 per gift. 1,000 gifts in total. 500,000. Her actual cut was 250,000. She pressed her hands together and smiled, feeling like the luckiest person in the whole world. But then she noticed my username on the screen, and her smile completely vanished. Her stream usually only pulled about 2,000 viewers, and my username popped up every single night. The quiet viewer who never spent a dime. She sank back into her chair. It was really me, the same guy who was always there. She couldn't even find the right words, just repeating thank you over and over again. The comments below were moving way too fast. The live stream chat was absolutely exploding. "This streamer is about to blow up and get famous," somebody wrote. Singyu was reading every single word, her hands pressed against her chest, her heart racing wildly. But then, one specific message made her freeze completely. It struck right at her heart. She desperately tried to keep a straight face, but tears welled up in her eyes. I had typed out that message myself. It read, "I do not know what is going on in your life right now, but I have been watching you for a really long time, and I can tell you are not truly happy." On the other side of the screen, Shinyu leaned forward, completely breaking down. The message continued, "I hope your singing and your piano will bring you joy again soon." The chat absolutely exploded after that. "This guy is not just rich, he actually has a heart," somebody typed. Singyu wiped her eyes with the back of her hand and took a deep, shaky breath. She looked at the camera and softly asked, "Is there any specific song you want to hear?" I typed out the name of my favorite English track and hit send. Her fingers gracefully drifted over the piano keys, and she started to play. The second the final note faded, I tapped my screen again. Another 1,000 pandas dropped. The live chat went completely insane. After that moment, I just could not stop myself. I bounced from one stream to the next. I kept jumping around, spending cash however I felt like it. Big channels, small channels, it really did not matter. Every single content creator I enjoyed watching got at least 99 pandas from me. The entire afternoon vanished just like that. $10 million, all completely blown on live streaming in a single day. The system task was finally marked as complete. I probably should have felt thrilled, but honestly, I just felt entirely numb. The smartphone glowed in my hand, almost like it had a pulse of its own. A new legend was born on that platform today. Some mysterious user who dropped a cool 10 million in just 3 hours. And that was me. Suddenly, a massive jolt of electricity ripped right through my body. Every muscle and bone felt like it was burning. 5 minutes later, I was totally paralyzed. The system chimed in, "Congratulations to the 100th host. Your body is now twice as strong." I opened and closed my fists, same hands, but feeling entirely different. "What the hell was that?" I asked. A glowing golden circle instantly appeared right in front of me. It spoke. "This energy was saved by the 99th host. A lifetime of gathered power that can elevate you far beyond any normal human. However, your father explicitly ordered that this powerful upgrade must be earned slowly through task rewards. Getting it all at once would ruin your natural growth," the system explained. That actually made sense to me. Unearned power never lasts long. I tightly clenched my fist again. Even a small physical boost felt absolutely incredible. The rest will unlock later as your level increases, the system noted. Oh, one more thing. I have arranged a personal butler for you, a loyal man who served the previous host well. He is currently waiting outside your door. I grabbed the handle and pulled it open. An older gentleman rushed inside, looking so incredibly excited that he could barely even form a proper sentence. He gasped out, "You must be Master Chen." His eyes were super wide. "I brought my granddaughter along today to help process your massive asset transfers." I firmly shook his hand and gestured, saying, "Please, come on inside." Honestly, I just found out yesterday exactly how much real estate and wealth my family actually owns, I admitted to him. We sat down together for some tea. His granddaughter was standing perfectly quiet right beside his chair. I looked at him. "Mr. Zong, you have to explain everything to me." He smiled and said, "Just call me Old Zong." His son currently managed my companies, and his granddaughter, Zhuang Ying, was going to be my new personal assistant. He assured me she would handle absolutely every daily need. I laughed, "But I am literally just a normal college student. Why would I need a fancy assistant?" Old Zong just offered a knowing smile. "You cannot handle every single business operation yourself," he replied. "Plus, she holds a master's degree directly from Oxford." She caught my eye and offered a polite smile. "An Oxford business grad, not bad at all." And he was completely right. I knew absolutely nothing about managing wealth. If I magically ran out of cash tomorrow, I would be helpless. I agreed that keeping her on the payroll was a smart move. Once all the paperwork was settled, Old Zong finally headed out. I stepped onto the balcony and leaned over the railing. His ride was a gorgeous Rolls-Royce. A chauffeur stood holding the door. The classic gold ornament gleamed brightly in the afternoon sunlight. A custom Rolls-Royce, a private driver in a sharp suit. This man was clearly loaded, yet he was nothing but my family's asset manager, and he only handled my grandfather's slice of the fortune. After he drove off, Zhuang Ying and I just sat there in total silence. She kept studying me closely, probably trying to figure out what kind of boss I would be. But sitting alone in such a cramped little room with a pretty girl always gets a little awkward. She was the first to break the tension. "Why don't you move to a new place?" she suggested. "This apartment is far too small for you." I glanced around at the peeling walls and my tiny twin bed. She had a point. "You own luxury real estate in every major city," she informed me. "Where exactly would you like to live?" My eyes went completely wide. I slumped back into my chair. Even the wealthiest billionaires in the country probably did not own that much. "I want something near Jiangnan University," I told her. "I am starting classes there soon." Zhuang Ying instantly pulled a high-end tablet from her designer bag and started typing. In seconds, results flooded in. Dozens of luxury listings. I leaned closer to the screen. She pointed at a property and smiled. "Found it. Exactly 3.5 kilometers from the main Jiangnan University campus. An exclusive private villa. Classic European architectural design." I was taking a sip of water when she dropped the specs. "Over 1,600 square meters. Total market value is 280 million. I choked on my water so hard I practically collapsed over the desk. 280 million for a house? I gasped. "That is insanely expensive per square meter." Zhuang Ying just chuckled. She was clearly enjoying my shell-shocked reaction. She casually offered, "If you want to take a tour, we can head over there right now." "Let's go," I replied instantly. There was absolutely nothing to think about. I scanned my messy bedroom one last time. I only needed to grab one single thing. A framed photo. A picture of me and my parents smiling together. I clutched it in my hand and walked toward the exit. Stopping right at the doorway, I glanced back. My chest felt surprisingly heavy. I had spent 20 years in this tiny apartment, and now I was leaving it all behind in a flash. Zhuang Ying immediately noticed my hesitation. "I will hire a crew to clean this place regularly," she promised. "You can always come back to visit." I just nodded quietly. In that moment, I honestly could not find my voice. She offered a respectful bow and guided me out the door. We rode the elevator down and headed straight for the parking garage. The second Zhuang Ying spotted the Porsche parked outside, she froze in her tracks. "Do you seriously drive this thing?" she asked. She was staring at my luxury ride like it was total garbage on the street. When my dad first revealed our family's massive wealth, I genuinely thought this expensive car was just a rental. But judging by her disgusted expression, merely owning it was a total embarrassment. She sighed. "I have already ordered a customized hypercar for you. It should be delivered in about 2 weeks." I told her I didn't need a driver, bragging that people called me the Road King. She just stared at me. The second those words left my mouth, instant regret hit me. Honestly, I had barely driven a car before. But the moment I sat behind the wheel, everything felt totally different. My body had practically leveled up. My grip on the steering was rock solid, my vision incredibly sharp, and my reflexes were faster than ever. It was a simple drive to Jiangnan, nothing to stress over. I pulled the car out smoothly, like I had done it 1,000 times. "If you get tired, just let me drive," Zhuang Ying offered, her voice dropping a notch. "My grandfather's entire family is forever indebted to yours," she murmured softly. "If it wasn't for your grandfather's actions, I wouldn't even be here today." She kept talking. Her tone was calm, but those words felt heavy. "Even if we died in a crash on this road," she stated, "we would just be returning the life that your wealthy family gave us." I frowned. Is it really that serious? What kind of man was my grandfather? What exactly did he do to earn such intense loyalty? Zhuang Ying offered no reply. She just quietly stared out the windshield. I shifted gears and hit the gas. The sky ahead was wide open and completely clear. It felt like my new life was finally beginning. Soon enough, we arrived. The massive gates read Jiangnan Villa. Being a student at Jiangnan University, I knew all about this place. My college roommates never shut up about it. Even the cheapest real estate here started at 80,000 per square meter. We stepped out and headed toward the main building. Even the absolute smallest luxury villa was 200 square meters. Regular folks wouldn't see that kind of cash in their whole lifetime. The lobby felt exactly like a 5-star hotel. And somehow, I now owned the largest property here. Zhuang Ying led me to the service center. It looked like an exclusive cafe. Everything here is free for owners, she noted. The girl at the front desk beamed. Hello, my name is Xiaowen. How can I help you today? Zhuang Ying stepped up. Hello, I am Mr. Chen's private assistant. We are here to collect the keys for Villa number 1. Xiaowen nearly dropped her fancy pen. She froze, totally stunned. That specific mansion had sold years ago, but nobody ever moved in. She quickly recovered, flashing a sweet smile. Of course, we just need to finalize some quick paperwork. Please show the owner's ID and property deed. Her eyes kept darting back and forth between me and Zhuang Ying. She was desperately trying to guess who the actual boss was. She glanced at me, then looked away. In her head, the rich owner was some middle-aged billionaire, not me. Zhuang Ying turned to me. Check for the property deed. It should be delivered by now. Xiaowen grabbed her phone to verify. The package had arrived an hour ago, but since it was sealed shut, nobody dared to open it. A black envelope with a red wax seal was set on the counter. Another staff member carefully brought it over. We also need the owner's ID, Xiaowen reminded us. I dug into my bag and slapped my card on the counter. Only I could pull this off. The second Zhuang Ying called me young master. Every girl at that front desk changed their tune. They had totally written me off earlier. Sure, I wasn't the owner. Now, reality was sinking in. Once the paperwork cleared, they escorted us into a slick, private VIP lounge featuring a fully stocked bar. Zhuang Ying stood close by, wearing a sly little smirk. Welcome to the ultimate VVVIP room, she whispered. Then she leaned in even closer, her voice dropping. Young Master Chen, I promise you, literally any girl at that front desk would gladly join you tonight. Want me to set it up? I completely froze up, feeling incredibly awkward. Even after dating my ex for 2.5 years, we never did anything beyond just holding hands. Honestly, I was still hopelessly innocent. That kind of wild teasing was short-circuiting my brain. Zhuang Ying just watched my panic with a warm, knowing smile. She covered her mouth, giggling softly. It was super obvious she was loving every second of this. My face was burning hot. But she wouldn't quit. With your current billionaire status, you could have thousands of beautiful women, she teased. Thousands. Just hearing those words made my head spin. She pressed on. You need to change your mindset fast, or things will get complicated later. I couldn't handle being messed with anymore. So, I leaned in and fired back. Forget the other girls. Someone has to warm my bed tonight. Why don't you do it yourself? Her smug smile vanished in a split second. Her jaw dropped, but absolutely no sound came out. Her cheeks instantly flared bright red. The witty comeback she was planning died right there. I leaned back on the couch and burst out laughing. Finally, I won a round. 5 minutes later, a guy in a black suit entered, bowing deeply. I am Wang Jihai, the property manager. Whatever you need, just contact me, he announced, politely offering his sleek business card with both hands. But Zhuang Ying immediately stepped between us. Her voice dropped to ice. Not everyone gets to speak directly to my young master. We have had a very long journey, and he needs his rest. The temperature in the room plummeted. Wang Jihai instantly realized he had crossed a serious boundary, getting way too eager to please. Sure, I probably looked friendly enough, but Zhuang Ying was a fortress. The manager tried recovering. Please, let me drive you to the estate. It's quite far. Zhuang Ying just shook her head firmly. No, we will drive ourselves. You lead the way. I stood up and straightened my jacket. It was finally time to see this place. Wang Jihai looked slightly disappointed, but he really didn't have any other option. Please follow me, he said, leading the way. His car was a Maybach, worth around 3 million yuan. But when he spotted my Porsche parked outside, sheer confusion washed over his face. For the mysterious billionaire owner of number 1, my current ride looked way too basic. I glanced at my Porsche. Zhuang Ying was totally right. I desperately needed an upgrade. Both cars rolled out, heading straight for the legendary estate. We took a private VIP road, complete with its own dedicated security detail. And then, I finally saw it. Hidden behind a massive fountain, the property was glowing in the dark, like its own private city. I thought I was fully prepared. I wasn't. My knuckles turned white gripping the steering wheel. This wasn't a house, not even a mansion. Calling it a palace felt incredibly accurate. I parked the car and just sat there, staring. Zhuang Ying stood beside me, smirking like she knew I was dying to go inside. Wang Jihai handed her the master keys and paperwork, bowed respectfully, and took off. Once we were alone, I asked, why were you so harsh with him? She rested her hand on the heavy door, her expression dead serious. People like him only act nice because of your wealth. I saw the greed in his eyes, she warned. Those types of people aren't worthy of your time. I nodded slowly. Something about her fierce words really struck a chord deep inside me. I still had so much to learn about this crazy new world, but at least I wasn't doing it alone. We finally stepped inside. The absolute first thing that caught my eye was a massive crystal chandelier, literally the size of a small bedroom. The floor tiles were so insanely pristine and reflective, I was genuinely terrified to walk on them. Zhuang Ying noticed. These are custom pieces. Every single tile is topped with pure crystal. They run about 5,000 yuan a piece. 5 grand a tile? That meant 30,000 per square meter, and that was just for the floor. Most luxury city apartments didn't even cost that much. And this was just the ground. Then she paused by a stunning blue vase near the entrance. This antique was passed down from your ancestors. In today's market, each one is worth a minimum of 12 million yuan. I stared at the vase. My legs literally gave out. I collapsed to the floor, catching myself with my hands. This massive entry hall felt like a private museum. Priceless fine art hung on every single wall. Rare sculptures sat securely behind thick glass displays. Exactly how insanely rich were my ancestors? They literally dumped museum-grade historical artifacts right by the front door, like some cheap impulse buy from a thrift store. I clutched my pounding chest. This isn't just the entrance, Zhuang Ying remarked casually. pointing further into the estate. I scrambled across the vast hall, sprinting until I suddenly stopped dead. Framed in gold was Starry Night, an authentic Van Gogh masterpiece. Down in the corner, painted in brilliant gold, was one single word: Vincent. My eyes nearly popped out of my head. This couldn't be real. Right below it, written in Dutch, was, "Thanks to my Chinese friend," alongside Vincent van Gogh's actual signature. The legend himself gifted this masterpiece to my ancestor. I pressed a shaky hand against my forehead, desperately trying to catch my breath, but my lungs felt completely empty. I had gone entirely numb. Right at that moment, a glowing blue light materialized near me. A system message appeared, 91st. My ancestors actually supported Van Gogh when he was at his absolute poorest. Now, this single piece of art was worth a staggering $600 million. My sweating hand slipped off the cold marble pillar, and I simply collapsed onto the floor. I just stared blindly into empty space. $600 million for one masterpiece. Zhuang Ying smiled faintly. "Now, do you finally understand that old saying?" she asked. Poverty always restricted my imagination. I stayed slumped against the massive pillar. The starry night glowed brilliantly right behind me, yet I was completely speechless. "This is only the outer hall," she casually mentioned, pointing toward the heavy doorway. "The actual collection is waiting inside the study." I groaned and buried my face in my hands. She kept listing things off. Paganini's violin, Chopin's piano. I stared blankly up at the vaulted ceiling. I didn't even have the energy to react anymore. Zhuang Ying stood perfectly still in the doorway, watching me with a perfectly calm smile. She clearly had one more secret to reveal. I was still sprawled out on the floor when her next few words completely blew my mind. "Where exactly do you want to sleep tonight?" she asked. Walking over to the window, she pointed at the glowing luxury villas outside. "All 20 properties are yours." I slowly pushed myself up. "I will just pick any empty estate." She nodded. "Just call if you need anything at all." I dropped right back down onto the floor. My brain desperately needed a pause. "Wait a second," I said, scrambling back up. "Is this entire area actually mine?" She replied calmly, "Properties under 300 square meters do not belong to you. Those are considered low quality." Low quality? Under 300 square meters? My eye literally started twitching. She just laughed at me. "The larger mansions are strictly for your service team, cleaners, private doctors, and other household staff. Over 200 people total." Then she turned and walked away. I sat helplessly on the couch, watching her leave. Once she was gone, I slapped myself right across the face. My cheek burned, sharp and incredibly real. This was no dream. This massive grand hall, the priceless paintings, these billion-dollar antiques, they all belonged to me. Suddenly, my stomach let out a loud growl. Surrounded by extreme wealth, but I had not eaten in hours. I noticed a sleek satellite phone resting on the coffee table. I grabbed it. The head chef was already saved in the contacts. I dialed it instantly. "Can somebody whip up something to eat?" I asked. "Hello, young master," a smooth voice answered. "What exactly are you craving today? We can prepare absolutely anything." I smiled to myself. Private chefs always make bold claims. I decided to test him. "What if I want fresh golden tuna right now?" I challenged. The line went totally silent for a moment. Maybe they actually could pull it off. "We operate 10 private jets," the chef explained. "They fly in premium fresh ingredients globally every single week. We just stocked a beautiful golden tuna yesterday." I dropped my head in pure disbelief. "Let me get that prepared for you immediately, young master," he promised. I leaned back against the cushions and closed my eyes. Massive wealth truly unlocked everything. 10 private airplanes dedicated strictly to grocery shopping. I slowly stood up. Resting my hands on my hips, I wondered, could anything possibly get more extreme than this lifestyle? In this ridiculous mansion? Probably. "Look, I was just kidding around," I quickly corrected him. "Just boil some simple noodles. Toss in a little seafood and fresh vegetables. Nothing too fancy. Give us exactly 20 minutes, the confident voice replied. "A staff member will deliver it right to your door." I ended the call and flopped onto the expensive couch. Getting used to this billionaire lifestyle was going to take serious time. While waiting, I decided to grab a quick shower. The running water felt strangely different, almost like a pristine natural hot spring. The soothing sensation was so incredible it felt completely unnatural. The moment I stepped out, someone knocked on my door. A young guy wearing a neat vest stood in the hallway. He held a steaming bowl. The noodles looked beautifully simple. Rich warm broth, fresh greens, and sliced meat. I was only half dressed when I casually cracked the door open. He did not blink even a single time. He just politely offered the heavy tray forward. He was the executive chef's son, very young, but undeniably sharp. I muttered a quick thanks, and grabbed the fancy food container. Carried it back to my room. I set it down and popped the lid off. Delicious steam billowed out. The bowl itself was the size of a small wash basin. Resting right on top of the noodles was a whole king crab, bright red and swimming in a rich, savory broth. I sat down quickly and grabbed my chopsticks. Guess my order wasn't exactly simple after all. But honestly, I was way too starving to complain about luxury seafood. Every single bite somehow tasted even better than the last. After finishing, I cracked the crab legs open one by one. When the feast ended, I used a sharp crab claw to pick my teeth. The ultimate rich guy toothpick. Feeling perfectly full, I walked back over to my massive bedroom. Right by the window sat a massive curved gaming monitor. The city lights glowed brightly in the background. I checked the rig specs. The graphics card was an 8090 model. That crazy tech wasn't even available to the general public yet. I hit the power button, and the vibrant display booted up in less than a second. Every single night before bed, I had this little routine. I would tune into a live stream hosted by a girl named Xing Yu just to enjoy her singing. Out of pure habit, I clicked right over to her streaming channel. Her profile suddenly boasted over 1 million followers. She skyrocketed from 50,000 to over 1 million in merely days. A massive viral jump like that definitely doesn't just happen by pure accident. It was completely fueled by my heavy donations. The second I logged in, a giant welcome banner flashed across the screen. "Welcome, Boss Lou." The live chat instantly exploded. Messages flew by so fast I couldn't even read a single word. Her dedicated fans kept spamming that they knew I would show up tonight. They had literally been waiting for me all evening long. I leaned back into my expensive gaming chair, just staring at the monitor. Being weirdly famous in someone else's chat room felt incredibly surreal. Xing, you completely ignored the chat chaos and stared right into her camera lens. Big spender, what song do you want to hear tonight? She asked playfully. I quickly typed back, just sing whatever you like best. Then I leaned back and closed my eyes, letting the gentle music completely fill the massive room. Her lovely voice was soft and incredibly steady. Right in the middle of a slow ballad, a sudden thought crossed my mind, making my cheeks burn slightly. What was Jing Yu actually like in real life? I couldn't stop wondering. Without giving it a second thought, I fired off a quick private message. Within minutes, we were fully connected over WeChat. I nervously typed a simple hello. Her reply popped up almost instantly. Do not get any weird ideas about this, she warned me. I just stared at the glowing screen, cracking my knuckles with a grin. She was genuinely interesting. I spent the rest of the night just enjoying her live vocals. Halfway through a relaxing melody, I dozed off in my chair. By the time I finally woke up, the morning sun was already blazing high above. It was early afternoon. I slipped on a plush bathrobe, wandered into the massive hallway, and told the chef I was dining out. Then, I grabbed my phone to check notifications, and immediately froze in panic. Last night, right after adding Xingyu, I accidentally passed out without saying another word. I opened our private chat thread. My only message was still just that pathetic hello. I furiously typed an apology. Sorry, last night I got incredibly busy and ended up falling asleep while listening to your vocals. Her response buzzed back in seconds. I raised a curious eyebrow. No worries, I totally get that ultra-rich guys like you are always swamped, she texted back. I chuckled softly. I quickly replied, letting her know I had just moved to Jiangnan City. I kept texting her while strolling down the long hallway. Stepping out into the massive sunlit private garden, I kept my eyes glued to the screen. I texted her that I planned to stick around this area for a while. Her reply pinged back instantly. She honestly could not believe I was still just a college student. I tapped her audio message. I seriously pictured you as some older guy in his 40s or 50s, she joked. I burst out laughing. I typed back that I was literally only 20 years old, finishing my senior year of college. I proudly sent her my campus name, Jiangnan University. A few seconds later, her next audio message dropped, noticeably longer this time. She frantically explained she was also enrolled at Jiangnan University, majoring in music. I froze right in my tracks. Same city, same college. What an absolutely crazy coincidence. She rambled on, mentioning how her entire fanbase spent the entire night wildly guessing my real identity. Half the chat insisted I was just some spoiled trust fund kid who completely skipped classes. The rest swore I was a ruthless corporate CEO throwing money around. Literally nobody even got close to the real truth. I could only chuckle at that. Rolling my eyes, I thought, who says every wealthy guy has to be clueless? I was literally top of my class. Thank you very much. Leaning back against the garden wall, I typed my comeback. Actually, I am a well-rounded. Another message popped up. She guessed I belonged to some incredibly powerful dynasty to casually drop thousands on live donations. I grinned at my phone screen. Something like that, I joked back. And please, stop calling me big spender. Just treat me like a normal guy, I told her, casually wandering further down the marble path. Moments later, an emotional paragraph came through. She deeply thanked me. My stream donations had practically saved her sick father's life at the hospital. Apparently, her dad desperately needed cash for an emergency treatment, and my cash injection arrived at the perfect time. To repay me, she insisted on buying me dinner. Staring out over the estate, I smiled. Just don't pick a terrible restaurant, I warned playfully. Honestly, I was slightly nervous. Truthfully, if she picked a hyper-fancy spot, I'd probably feel way more awkward than her. I decided to be completely honest. Look, until literally 2 days ago, I didn't even know I was a billionaire. She immediately typed back, sent a cartoon dog face sticker saying, "You expect me to believe this?" She clearly didn't buy a single word of it. I found the whole thing hilarious. I just looked up at the sky. I fired off another message. Imagine your parents suddenly telling you they are secretly wealthy. But my family wasn't just normal rich. They were way beyond anything she could ever imagine. And right now, they were somewhere out in the world, and nobody knew exactly where. Right then, Zhuang Ying sent a message. She said, I desperately needed proper clothes. She was completely right. Everything I had on right now combined was worth less than 1,000 yuan. I figured I would just hit a mall and grab some decent outfits. But Zhuang Ying told me I actually owned a private factory that exclusively made custom clothing for them. A tailor would arrive this afternoon to take my personal measurements. I put the luxury car into gear. We pulled out of the huge estate. I cruised down the open road, driving with my windows completely rolled down. A few minutes later, the road opened up toward the college campus, Jiangnan University. Since it was summer break, the whole place was practically empty. I easily parked my car and hopped out. Only grad students were hanging around. The second I slammed my door shut, a familiar voice called out from behind. It was my college roommate, Chen Kai. He stood there holding a thick stack of books, his jaw practically hitting the floor. "Did you suddenly get taller?" he asked, looking me up and down in total disbelief. "Honestly, I didn't even recognize you at first. Get out of here." I fired back with a loud laugh. "I am still growing. Didn't you know that? Why didn't you go back home for the summer break?" I asked. He just shrugged. "My family really wants me to study for the graduate exams, so I am stuck here." Then, I casually told him the big news. Officially moved into a new place. I leaned against my expensive ride and spread my arms wide. Chen Kai pushed his glasses up his nose. "You really kept all this secret for so long?" he muttered, leaning against the slick roof. "Real estate out here is over 60,000 per square meter. One apartment costs half a lifetime of savings." I threw my head back and laughed hard. My dad literally just dropped the massive news on me 2 days ago. I'm a second-generation heir. I grabbed his shoulder. "Lunch is on me today. Let's hit that fancy butler restaurant near campus." His face instantly went pale. "That place? The minimum spend there is 300 per head. We started walking toward the upscale restaurant. Chen Kai was still in utter shock. I am paying the bill, I reminded him, physically pushing him forward. Just keep walking. If we are blowing cash today, let's do it somewhere the food actually tastes incredible. The second we reached the grand entrance, Chen Kai's expression completely dropped. Two people were stepping out the doors. One of them was my toxic ex-girlfriend, Jiang Yuan. She was clinging tightly to the arm of a tall, muscular guy. My ex-girlfriend, Jiang Yuan. She locked eyes with me and smirked, looking at me like I was dirt stuck to her expensive shoes. The muscular guy beside her was none other than Wang Xuan, her brand new boyfriend. For a brief second, absolutely nobody moved an inch. The four of us just stood frozen right there. Chen Kai suddenly let out a very cold laugh. He knew the whole ugly story. Nobody knew better than him exactly how well I treated Jiang Yuan. Every single week, I planned a thoughtful little surprise for her. Cute gifts, letters, romantic dates. I practically starved myself saving cash for months just to buy an electric scooter so I could easily drop her off right at her daily classes. Now, here she was, holding hands with another guy right in front of my face. A waiter from inside the luxury restaurant walked over to us. "How many guests today?" he politely asked. "2," I replied smoothly, raising a finger. I definitely wasn't going to let my awful ex ruin my lunch appetite. We sat down right by the large window. Chen Kai rested his chin on his hand and leaned in. "So where did you move?" he asked. "Maybe I will drop by and visit you sometime." "Jiangnan Villas," I told him calmly. "If you ever get bored, just come over. I have plenty of spare rooms." Chen Kai's hand froze right in midair. "Lots of rooms?" I simply shrugged my shoulders. They are just sitting completely empty. He probably had no idea that Jiangnan Villas only featured ultra-high-end luxury mansions. He instantly went totally quiet. But suddenly, from the other side of the busy restaurant, Wang Xuan's arrogant voice echoed out. "Making big fake claims like that will only get you into serious trouble," he sneered. Being my ex-girlfriend's new guy, he obviously already hated my guts. I stared directly into his smug face. He desperately wanted to start a physical fight. I could clearly see it in his eyes. He definitely overheard me mention Jiangnan Villas. He was flexing a heavy gold watch on his wrist, and he absolutely knew the massive price tag of that luxury area. His own wealthy family lived nearby. He knew for a fact that even the cheapest villa over there started at roughly 20 million yuan. He smirked like he had already won some prize. Then he raised his voice so the whole room could hear. "I honestly thought your pathetic ex was just dirt poor." Jiang Yuan chimed in with a sickeningly sweet smile. "Turns out he's a massive liar too," she added loudly. Chen Kai's face dropped in sheer embarrassment. Other customers turned to stare. A few definitely recognized that elite neighborhood name, and predictably people laughed. They scanned my faded, cheap t-shirt and just shook their heads. In their judging eyes, I clearly didn't belong in this high-end restaurant. I slowly sipped my water. None of their opinions mattered to me anymore. After what I saw over the last 2 days, a bunch of strangers laughing felt like absolutely nothing. Then Wang Xuan opened his mouth again. "He has always been exactly like this," my ex boldly claimed. Jiang Yuan pointed her finger straight at me, constantly showing off. "But he literally has nothing. I had sacrificed absolutely everything for this girl, and this was how she remembered me." She crossed her arms tightly and stared down at me like I was literal dirt. "Alright, fine." Suddenly, right in front of my eyes, a bright holographic interface flashed to life. The system activated. A new mission popped up. "Shut these two arrogant fools up." The reward? An item my ancestors threw away. I leaned back in my chair and smiled widely. My family's discarded trash was easily way more valuable than this entire luxury building. I had quickly learned that brutal fact over the last 48 hours. The things my billionaire family considered entirely useless were completely beyond a normal person's wildest imagination. I slowly stood up, and the entire dining room's attention shifted. "Nobody here means anything to me," I said in a calm voice. Wang Xuan angrily threw his arms wide. "My single toe is worth more than your whole life," he screamed. I just tilted my head and stared at him. That was honestly the funniest garbage I had heard all day. Wang Xuan completely lost his temper. He charged straight at me and violently grabbed my shirt collar with both of his heavy hands. He genuinely believed some broke college kid couldn't ever disrespect him like that. But the second I grabbed his wrist, everything flipped. I squeezed slightly, and his aggressive grip instantly broke. His eyes widened in pure shock. Despite all his heavy gym muscles, he felt exactly like a weak little kid standing helplessly in front of me. It honestly felt like the system had doubled my physical strength. I was easily pinning his arm without breaking a single sweat. This was the powerful new me. Brutal pain flashed clearly across his panicked face, but his fragile, massive ego wouldn't let him scream. He dropped onto one knee but stubbornly kept quiet. Then, Chen Kai jumped between us and nervously pulled us apart. I gave Wang Xuan a casual shove. He tumbled backward and awkwardly crashed right into an empty dining booth. I casually straightened my collar. It had gotten slightly wrinkled in the brief scuffle. Wang Xuan aggressively glared at me, his eyes burning with pure, unhinged hatred. I just offered him a mocking smirk. Jiang Yuan truly picks the absolute biggest losers to date. Right then, two heavy security guards rushed over. Jiang Yuan was already playing the innocent victim, frantically pointing her fake nails at me. The floor manager jogged over next. Her shiny gold name tag read by. One look at her stressed out face clearly told me massive trouble. Elite luxury restaurants take physical fights very seriously. But honestly, I wasn't sweating it one bit. I calmly pulled out my smartphone and dialed a number. Wang Xuan glared at me from the floor. He had absolutely zero clue what was about to happen next. "I'm over at the luxury butler restaurant near the college campus," I told the receiver. "My toxic ex and her new guy are here. These absolute losers are loudly mocking me for being completely broke. An incredibly respectful voice answered from the other end. I will handle this immediately, sir. I hung up the phone and smiled. The situation suddenly reminded me of the exclusive, limitless black card my billionaire father had just given me. Anybody with decent high society knowledge would instantly recognize and instantly treat me like royalty. I tossed my phone onto the table and waited. Wang Xuan gritted his teeth and sneered. He is completely faking it right now. Just watch security drag his pathetic, broke body out onto the street any second now. A suited guard hovered nearby. Chen Kai nervously stood beside me. I casually pointed at Manager Bai. You're about to get a very important phone call. Just wait. She looked totally confused by my weird confidence. After all, who in the world would call her about some random kid? Less than 2 minutes later, her work phone suddenly rang. She hesitantly answered it. On the other end was the billionaire owner of this entire luxury restaurant chain. Her eyes went incredibly wide. Whatever the boss was saying, the terrifying effect was clearly visible. Absolutely do not offend that powerful young man, the owner barked. Give him whatever he wants today. Chen Kai was now sitting comfortably, casually holding his water cup. Manager Bai's hands were literally shaking as she listened. This luxury restaurant brand operated across multiple countries. It definitely wasn't some small local business. Yet, after my one quick phone call, the billionaire owner himself was personally giving orders. She genuinely couldn't comprehend the massive wealth and sheer power standing right behind me. She cut the flour and bowed deeply. Wang Xuan and Jiang Yun stood in the back, totally stunned. Mr. HN, she said, wiping sweat from her face. I will prepare the best table for you right away. I just nodded. Wang Xuan instantly jumped up. What in the world is happening here? He yelled. You are giving these two nobodies the best seat. I looked at him with a faint smile. This was actually getting really fun. Because this restaurant belongs to me, I said. That was all it took. The system had already shown me the numbers during our fight. Data kept flashing in the corner of my vision. Wang Xuan just stood there glaring. His whole body went completely stiff. Sweat started pouring down his face. 92% of this dining company belongs to my family, I said loudly, making sure everyone heard me. The remaining 8% was given to the people who built it from the ground up. Wang Xuan pointed a shaking finger at the business license on the wall. You are dreaming, he screamed. Your name is not on that. Manager Bai flinched. She finally recognized the name and made the connection. Manager Bai, I said calmly. Throw these two out right now and ban them permanently from every single location. Wang Xuan immediately started shoving the security guards, trying to break free. The owner had ordered Bai to obey my every command. If they got kicked out in front of everyone, their reputation would be completely destroyed. I leaned back in my chair and crossed my legs, holding a calm smile. Wang Xuan desperately tried to look like he was still in charge. Do you want to run a business here? He screamed at the staff. Kicking out paying customers? This is the first time I have ever seen a restaurant throw out its own guests. Right then, a waiter walked up to Bai and quietly explained what really caused the fight. Bai listened and smiled. The truth was totally on our side. Wang Xuan had started the whole thing. If you have a complaint, she said in a sickeningly sweet voice, you are completely free to report us. Wang Xuan lost all the color in his face. He knew he was the one at fault, but his ego refused to admit it. He played the rich kid, but his father was just some minor shareholder. Their family name meant absolutely nothing here. He just stood there grinding his teeth, pressing his heavy fists into the table. I picked up a spoon and gave him a big smile. Getting a little angry, I asked him, you have money? Wang Xuan hissed through his teeth. But what can you actually do to me? Every single muscle in his body was tense and ready to fight, but he remembered exactly how I crushed his hand earlier. Plus, the guards were still standing right there. He finally lowered his head. He really had no other choice. He had to swallow his massive ego. I slowly took a sip of my drink. I was not finished breaking him yet. Not just this one store, I said. Every single location in this entire food chain is mine. Their jaws practically hit the floor. If you ever want to buy this restaurant, I said while standing up, you would have to buy the entire corporate group first. He did not know the exact dollar amount, but he definitely knew that a publicly traded company was worth more than his family could ever dream of. He buried his face in his hands. He had absolutely nothing left. I raised my hand and signaled, Manager Bai, you handle the rest. I turned and followed the server straight toward the exclusive VIP area. I never even bothered looking back. There was absolutely nothing left worth seeing anyway. Manager Bai kept her perfectly professional smile as she actively kicked them out. That level of service is exactly why this restaurant group got so massive. The other diners started whispering at their tables. That brat thought he owned the place. One older guy laughed out loud and said, he picked the wrong fight. Jiang Yun heard every word. Her face turned completely pale. Wang Xuan could not take another second of humiliation. His ears burned bright red, his jaw clamped shut. He stormed out without saying a word, leaving Jiang Yun behind. The entire dining room watched his walk of shame. Jiang Yun did not dare say a thing. She dropped her head and chased right after him. Every single guest was staring right at her. Outside in the parking lot, Wang Xuan clenched his fist so hard that his knuckles loudly cracked. The deep anger inside was eating him alive. He immediately took all that rage out on Jiang Yun. She stood right in front of him, tears already streaming down her face. I honestly had no idea this would happen, she whispered softly. When we were dating, he used to work extra part-time jobs just to buy me cheap gifts. Wang Xuan clenched his fist even tighter, the anger blinding him completely. I swear I never knew his family had this kind of crazy money, she sobbed out loud. The two of them stood alone in that dark parking lot, staring at each other, but neither of them had the words to fix it. Wang Xuan had never been this humiliated in his entire life. He slammed his heavy fist right onto the car hood. He swore he would get his ultimate revenge on me, but Jiang Yun quickly grabbed his shaking arm. She begged him not to do anything crazy. Meanwhile, I was safely inside the luxury VIP room, scanning the dinner menu. 2 medium steaks, I told the waiter. Add some grilled shrimp, and a plate of foie gras. Chen Kai was sitting right across from me, looking completely dazed. This private room was way more expensive than anything he had ever seen in his life. I knew he would feel way too awkward trying to order from a fancy menu like this. So I just went ahead and ordered for both of us. The private suite was massive. Gold frames lined the walls, crystal glasses sat on the table. The waiter bowed deeply to us. We will bring everything out very shortly, sir. Chen Kai grabbed his own head with both hands in disbelief. 3 whole years, he muttered. I sat next to you in class for 3 straight years, and I had absolutely no clue. I rested my chin on my hand and just smiled. You even borrowed lunch money from me back then, he yelled, pointing a finger right at my face. I gently pushed his arm down and pulled him onto the plush couch, so he would not shout any louder. Man, I only found out about all this wealth recently myself, I said. Chen Kai stared at me like I just claimed the sky was bright green. I smiled at him. Bro, think about it. For 3 solid years, the only ride I had was a cheap bicycle. He leaned forward, his eyes going totally wide. All that time, and nobody ever figured it out? He asked. Then he looked across the dining table right at me. So, how much money does your family actually have? Honestly, you probably will not believe me, I said. Even I do not know the exact number yet. Chen Kai's jaw literally dropped. And that Jiangnan villa, how much is it per square meter? He guessed. At least 60,000? I shook my head. I casually held up all 10 fingers and let him do the heavy math in his head. Chen Kai almost slammed his open hand right onto the table. Instead, his fist clenched hard against his leg. That price tag was just way too massive for him. 150,000 per square meter, he yelled out. That is entirely impossible. In my hometown, that money buys a whole house. I looked at him and felt a bit guilty. I did not want to crush his confidence any further, so I smoothly changed the subject. His eyes were still bulging wide open. His brain was clearly still glitching, trying to process my crazy wealth. Listen, when we get some free time, I will bring you and the rest of the guys over to my new place, I told him. Then you can see it all for yourself. I decided not to mention that a single painting in my house cost more than this entire building. Chen Kai gave me a weak half smile. We had made a solid promise to each other 3 years ago, remember? Look, I cannot save everyone in the world, I said, raising my crystal glass up. But when it comes to my true brothers, I will always support you guys. We smiled and clinked our glasses together. If any of you ever want to launch a startup or business, I said, looking him dead in the eye, you just have to tell me. Chen Kai gripped his drink tightly and blinked fast. Are you actually being serious right now? Because I have literally been waiting for you to say exactly that. He burst out, suddenly buzzing with pure energy. We already have a killer video game idea mapped out. If we can just finish building it, it is going to be massive, he promised. Now he definitely had my attention. I rested my chin in my hand and just listened. In our dorm room, I am the only guy studying a random major, I said. The other 3 of you are all computer science majors. Chen Kai gave me a very proud look as I slightly tilted my head. And you guys love gaming more than absolutely anything else. But then he took a really heavy, stressed breath. The problem is, we have 0 funding to actually set up our own servers, and are completely lacks enough tech talent, he added sadly. That is exactly why we were forced to give up on it. I listened quietly as the wheels turned in my head. A sudden business idea sparked. I leaned back comfortably. If I personally invest 10 million, will that be enough capital? Chen Kai practically spit his expensive drink across the table. 10 million? Just like that? I looked at him calmly. Who would ever turn down a solid pitch? Not enough for you? I asked casually. Then how does 100 million sound to you? Chen Kai started violently choking on his food. He quickly grabbed a linen napkin and coughed into it. How insanely rich is your family actually? He stared at me, thick sweat beading on his panicked face. But dude, you have not even seen our actual business plan yet. Are you not terrified that we are just going to completely waste your money? I sat there perfectly relaxed in the leather chair. Are you not worried that you could lose absolutely everything on a bad investment? He asked. I just gave him. I stared at the tens of millions. Leaning back, I told him it was nothing. You're my brother, I said. If the project fails, it fails. Chen Kai just sat there. He had absolutely 0 response to that. He stayed frozen in his seat, completely speechless. So this is how wealthy people throw cash around, he muttered quietly. Lose a few $1,000,000 and just brush it off is fine. I narrowed my eyes at him. My face grew serious. Get your pitch materials ready, I told him. I'll introduce my personal assistant to your startup team. Chen Kai slowly nodded. He cleared his throat. Assuming we don't hit any major roadblocks, he started. The funding will transfer right away, I confirmed. But let me make one thing crystal clear. I only supply the capital. The daily grind is entirely on you. Chen Kai flashed a massive grin and pumped his fist hard. As long as we have the budget, absolutely nothing can stop us. We kept talking, and the deeper we got into the details, the more hyped we both felt. Chen Kai made his final choice right then and there. He was dropping his grad school plans entirely. He was ready to pour his entire soul into this business venture. We leaned across the table, mapping out our very first moves. After finishing dinner, I headed straight home. The second I stepped through the front doors of my massive villa, my cell phone started ringing. It was an incoming call from someone I had not spoken to in ages. I glanced down at the glowing screen. It was Zhang He, an old classmate from my high school days. He had barely reached out to me since our graduation. I dropped onto the living room couch and answered. Hearing his familiar voice instantly pulled me back in time. It truly felt like I was standing right back in high school. Our school anniversary is coming up in 2 weeks, he announced through the speaker. The teachers really want us to visit the campus. I listened closely. It had been a very long time since I had seen any of those guys. Honestly, the thought made me genuinely happy. Sitting alone in the massive grand hall of my villa, I smiled at the idea. It really has been forever since we all hung out, I told him. Count me in. I will definitely be there. But listen, Zhang He's tone suddenly grew dead serious. Don't forget, he warned me. Some of our old classmates are only showing up to flex their wealth. I just grinned at the warning. I'll be ready for them, I promised. Right at that exact second, the glowing system interface popped up right in front of me. New mission, dominate the school reunion. The reward, a priceless artifact my ancestors lost generations ago. I quickly scanned the details. A slow smirk crept across my face. Certain guys from my past were going to show up and act like absolute legends. I already knew their game, and I was fully prepared to wreck their egos. I stood quietly in the doorway, The sun was setting right behind my back. This was going to be hilarious. But before the upcoming high school reunion, another massive surprise dropped. I discovered my family actually held deep ties to British royalty. And because of those elite connections, the royals sent someone special over just to meet me. A man named Haram. Apparently, he was a world-class fashion designer. Honestly, it didn't even shock me that my powerful family could summon him across the globe like that. Haram walked straight toward me, flashing a warm smile with his arms wide open. At his age, he hated traveling such crazy distances, but an offer of £5 million a year, plus a luxury private jet, quickly changed his mind. His only real job was mentoring a few elite students every year. Plus, if he could secure his citizenship here, he was totally down to become my full-time personal stylist. The two of us sat facing each other in the sprawling living room. The space between our chairs was massive. "Long time no see," he said warmly. "The last time I laid eyes on you, you were literally still a baby." That single sentence alone told me everything I needed to know. He'd clearly known my family for decades. "Mr. Haram," I started, "you designed custom wardrobes for my parents as well, didn't you?" He gave a quick nod, a soft smile spreading across his face. "Yes, but that was a very long time ago. Your father desperately wanted you to experience a totally normal life," he explained, his smile turning gentle. "That is exactly why they kept the massive wealth hidden for so many years." Gesturing with one hand, Haram continued his thought. "But now, they have officially handed down everything they own to you." I absorbed that heavy truth in complete silence, which is precisely why I was invited here to pay my proper respects. Haram spoke the words with a respectful nod. "There is really no need to be so formal with me," I assured him. "Given our long history, you are practically family." But then, his very next sentence completely caught me off guard. "The Queen personally wishes to invite you," he revealed. "Whenever you have the free time to visit the royal palace." I nodded calmly at the invitation. Well, at least I tried my best to look unaffected. On the outside, not a single muscle flinched. I stayed cool and steady, but deep down, my heart was hammering against my ribs so loudly I could hear it. A direct invitation from the Queen herself. Who else on earth gets to say that? Haram suddenly pulled out a measuring tape and got straight to work. He quickly measured my shoulders, my arms, and my chest. He logged every single number directly into his mental vault. Then, he politely asked what specific fashion styles I preferred. When I mentioned the massive high school reunion happening 2 weeks from now, Haram's eyes lit up. He immediately promised my wardrobe would be absolutely flawless. 2 weeks is more than enough time for me, he declared. He flashed a wildly confident smile. "I will craft something absolutely perfect for you." We firmly shook hands, sealing the deal right there. Haram marched briskly down the grand hallway, already heading straight back to his design workshop. Just then, Zhongying stepped forward. Her face lit up like a brilliant idea just struck her. "You could simply make a massive donation to the school in your name," she suggested. "That is genuinely the fastest way to become their top alumni overnight." I dragged a hand down my face. How did I not think of that genius move myself? She was totally right. Universities only care about two things from graduates: their overall social influence, and the actual financial benefits they can bring to the campus. Quickly turned to face her. "How much liquid cash do I actually have available right now?" I asked. "I only manage a tiny fraction of your total wealth," she replied smoothly. "But across your domestic and international bank accounts, your currently available cash sits at roughly $500 billion. My jaw literally dropped to the floor. I honestly thought my ears were broken. I begged her to say the number again. She calmly repeated every single word. The massive number didn't change. Slowly, my frozen brain started processing reality again. I collapsed heavily back onto the couch. The richest billionaire on Earth probably peaks around $100 billion total. And even that fortune is entirely locked up in their fixed assets," Zhang Ying quickly pointed out. "Not their liquid spending money. Just my random cash alone was literally 4 times larger than their entire life's fortune." But then, my brain caught onto something crucial. She clearly stated earlier that she only managed a tiny fraction of my wealth. "Wait, what about the rest?" I demanded. "Your family's entire empire is split into 7 distinct parts," she revealed. 7 incredibly powerful global organizations manage the assets on your behalf. And trust me, my family handles the absolute smallest piece of the pie. My head was spinning. I couldn't even form a straight thought. I shot up from the couch and bolted straight for the balcony doors. I desperately needed some fresh air. I stared at the night sky, biting my lip hard to stop myself from laughing out loud. It all made sense now. I finally understood exactly why my parents forced me to live like a completely average, ordinary guy for so many years. They needed to shape my character before handing over the world. Wearing a calm, relaxed smile, I stepped back inside. The formal invitation letter for my old high school reunion was resting right on my desk. I stared at it for a long moment. The epic school anniversary was approaching fast. I grabbed my cell phone and dialed straight to the principal's private office. Over at Second High School, Principal Juman was slumped behind his heavy wooden desk, his head buried in his hands. His massive frustration was obvious in the silence. The dusty shelves packed with old academic trophies felt like a cruel joke. He glared bitterly at this year's exam results. Same sad story as always. He slammed his heavy fist directly onto the printed papers. Always stuck in second place. Never taking the crown. He aggressively rubbed his aching forehead. First High School always stayed one infuriating step ahead of his students. And recently, the brutal rivalry had gotten so much worse. Third High School had just miraculously landed a wildly famous alumni who casually donated $3 million to their campus. That massive cash injection was helping their rival grow at lightning speed. Principal Juman's beloved school was rapidly eating dust. Their secure second-place ranking was completely slipping away. The terrible thought made his stomach churn. Suddenly, the heavy landline on his desk started ringing. He snatched up the receiver. "I'm calling to discuss the upcoming school anniversary celebration," I stated calmly over the phone line. He let out a slow, exhausted sigh. He had already fielded dozens of annoying calls exactly like this today. "Does the school accept direct alumni donations?" I asked. "Student donations? Wait, donations?" He repeated blindly. Hearing my specific inquiry, he finally started paying attention. After a few rapid questions, Principal Juman figured out that his caller had graduated back in 2016. I was still just a college kid, a third-year university student. Naturally, he didn't get his hopes up too high. He smiled politely. Just a young kid with no real money, he assumed. Give whatever amount you can comfortably afford, he instructed warmly. Go ahead, tell me the exact number. Deep down, I was already I mentioned the amount, and the principal just laughed. Any donation is welcome, he said happily. So let me start with 10 new buildings, I replied. Juman choked on his own breath. He completely froze, gripping the phone tight. He jumped to his feet. Did he hear that right? Then he slowly sat back down and closed his eyes. He definitely thought I was pulling a prank. I am planning to donate 100 million, I told him. New classrooms, brand new labs, and better equipment for the entire school. I kept my voice perfectly calm. Is this all real? Juman asked me. His voice was extremely cautious now. Even a major tech CEO would think twice about a number like that. Giving 100 million in one go just wasn't something ordinary people ever did. It's absolutely true. I said it with a wide grin. Have I ever lied to you before? I pulled the phone away from my ear and smiled. On the other end, Juman thought about it. He remembered this student very well. This kid was always causing trouble in school, but one thing was for sure, he never lied. Still, I could easily sense that the principal wasn't entirely convinced yet. Let's do it this way, I finally suggested. I'll wire the money to the school account right now. I hung up the call and opened the system. A glowing blue screen popped up. Transfer 100 million into my high school bank account, I ordered. I didn't even know the exact account number, but that was never an issue for the system. The glowing orb on my desk pulsed brightly. No problem, it replied. Give me 10 minutes at the absolute most. Fast as always. 100 million used to feel like all the money in the world, but compared to hundreds of billions, it was just a drop in the ocean. My yearly bank interest alone easily covered that. Back at the high school campus, Juman slowly put the phone down. He sat back in his chair and stared off into empty space. His mind was totally blank. Was that former student actually telling him the truth? Or was this all a cruel joke? Then, less than 5 minutes later, his office phone rang again. It was the finance department. The finance director's voice was violently shaking as he spoke. $100 million. It just hit the school account, the guy said. Juman completely froze in place. He took a massive, deep breath. Where did it come from? He asked, trying hard to keep his voice steady. We confirmed it with the bank. It came from a private account, the director replied, but the bank refuses to tell us who sent it. Juman gripped the phone even tighter. His breathing grew heavy as he leaned forward in his chair. I know exactly who sent it, Juman whispered quietly. He couldn't even believe his own words. The money was totally real. It arrived at the exact moment the kid promised it would. Who is it? The stunned finance director asked. Juman sat up straight, his voice suddenly filled with massive pride. It's one of our very own graduates, he declared. Get down to my office right now, he ordered. We need to figure out exactly how to spend every single penny of this. He leaned over his wooden desk, a fiery new life burning in his eyes. This time, we're finally going to beat first high. The second I realized the transfer cleared, I called Juman back. On the other side, Juman squeezed the phone so hard, his knuckles turned totally white. His eyes were getting misty behind those thick glasses. The old man was desperately trying to hold back his tears of joy. With this kind of money, our school can finally become stronger, he said, his voice cracking with emotion. Before we get too excited, let's talk about how to spend it, I casually interrupted. I was really thinking. We should use half of it to build a brand new classroom building and a state-of-the-art lab, I started. But he quickly stopped me before I could even finish. Do you even know how big our campus is? He asked sharply. We only have 4 main buildings. You can't just construct 10 new ones all at once. There's literally no space. He waved his hands around, as if I could see him. I laughed out loud. All right, I hadn't really thought the tiny details through. I trust you completely, I said. You know this school better than anyone else ever could, so you decide. Juman wiped his eyes. The heavy tears were already falling down now. He steadied his breathing. First, I'm going to add 1 teaching facility and a new lab, he stated. Then I'll upgrade all the outdated gear. Whatever is broken gets tossed. And the very first thing, he declared firmly, is replacing every single air conditioner for those kids. I instinctively punched the sofa next to me. That should have been done years ago, I said through gritted teeth. Spending 3 brutal summers sweating in those broken, baking classrooms. Replacing those dusty units was my biggest high school dream. Juman continued talking. With another chunk of the funding, he said, I want to bring in some of the absolute best teachers from all across the entire province. And I want to set up a brand new scholarship fund, he added, just to support the brightest students from poor, struggling families. I nodded my head in deep agreement, even though there was no way he could see me. Every single part of his master plan was absolutely flawless. That man knew exactly what the school desperately needed. You have thought of everything, I said, leaning back comfortably on the soft sofa. Juman pressed his lips tightly together, trying to hold his overwhelming feelings back. About the scholarship fund, he said very carefully. I want to name it directly after you. That felt incredibly weird. Having a giant fund in my own name seemed way too flashy. No, I said. Consider this just the first donation. Other graduates will definitely give money later. The name should represent everyone. Call it the Children of the Ocean Fund, I suggested. So I will gladly follow your lead on that, Juman agreed. On behalf of every single teacher and student at our school, he whispered softly, thank you so much. I rubbed the back of my neck awkwardly. I never knew how to handle emotional moments like this. I grew up in that very school, I told him. Helping it out is exactly what I'm supposed to do. And I truly meant that from the bottom of my heart. That place was my real home. For 3 solid years. Then Juman suddenly went completely quiet. A concerning thought had just crossed his racing mind. How could a college kid possibly have this kind of cash? This money, he asked slowly. Did you get it through some illegal, shady methods? I actually just found out about it myself, I replied, keeping my tone perfectly relaxed. My parents traveled abroad and handed the whole family business over to me. Juman let out a massive sigh of sheer relief. I had no idea your family was that powerful, he noted. But moving this much cash all at once, he added with concern. Will that not hurt the business? Don't even worry about that, I said, brushing it completely off. For my family, this tiny amount isn't even worth counting. And if 100 million isn't enough, I added smoothly, just let me know. I'll send more. After that, I left everything to Juman and his whole dedicated team. My only job was paying the bill. Planning, building, hiring new teachers, that was their headache, not mine. And even if something went totally wrong along the way, it didn't matter. With the immense cash I had now, I could fix anything. Night finally fell. I sat at my desk and pulled up a live stream, just like always. But what I saw on that glowing screen nearly knocked me right out of my chair. My streaming account. The exact same one that dropped 10 million in digital gifts. It now had over 1 million followers. Crazy notifications were exploding from every direction. The screen could barely handle the insane traffic. I quickly opened my private direct messages. Tens of thousands of unread texts were waiting right there. Every other message was either someone begging for a date or desperately trying to grab my attention. I immediately closed the crowded inbox and stared at the sleek machine. This is a genuinely nice computer, I muttered aloud. I was deeply impressed. All-in-one desktop computers had gotten so good lately. I ran my fingers along the smooth screen edge. Then the system decided to correct me out of nowhere. Whoever told you this was an all-in-one? It suddenly asked. I turned back toward the bright screen. The blue display flashed brightly on the monitor. Right underneath this massive villa, the system proudly announced. There's a compact supercomputer. I just stared blankly at it. A literal supercomputer sitting right beneath my feet? The graphics card alone is worth 80 million, it casually added. My jaw almost hit. The floorboards. Machines exactly like this are built strictly for governments, for elite defense and massive science programs. And here I was, using it to watch random streams and play casual video games. Right then, the streamer I was watching asked if I wanted to join a high-stakes ranked match. His pro squad desperately needed one more player. I agreed without a second thought. I literally had nothing else to do tonight anyway. But then I suddenly remembered that I didn't even have an active account on his gaming server. So I typed a quick message in the live chat, asking if anyone could lend me theirs. I won't borrow it for free, I wrote. Just send the account info to the streamer. The entire chat absolutely exploded. Everyone begged me to pick theirs. The streamer's whole squad was master rank or even higher. I was about to game with the absolute best. Within just a few seconds, someone sent me a master tier gaming account. I logged right in. Without a second thought, I topped up 100,000 yuan on that borrowed profile and bought every single skin in the store. The live chat went absolutely wild. Messages flew in so fast my screen could barely handle the load. Who gets that lucky? My viewers kept typing the same thing over and over. They told me to warn them before I ever borrowed an account again. I just smiled. That account owner just got the greatest deal of their life. Then the streamer started talking. He wanted to introduce everybody in the lobby. He told me that they were all former pro players. But now they were all retired. I placed my hands on the keyboard and mouse. It was time to game. I plugged in my microphone and said hello. The whole squad seemed super chill and friendly. The first match officially began. Thousands of people were watching the live stream. My skills were not bad at all. I could hold my own in most matches. But playing alongside retired esports pros, I was clearly the weakest link on this team. One teammate kept shutting down my opponent in the middle lane. By the end of it, all 4 of them were just feeding me free kills. They really wanted to make me look good. 5 straight kills in a row, an absolute pentakill. I leaned back in my gaming chair and could not stop smiling. The chat was already guessing my next move. Someone typed that Boss Lou was about to log off. The rest were just cracking jokes. They joked about making a fan club to follow me into every single broadcast. Then somebody mentioned a female streamer named Song Yu. Her name kept popping up everywhere in the live chat. 3 days later, the streamer reached out. There was a massive live streaming convention happening right in the city. He invited me to come if I was free. I replied that it sounded great. We made plans to meet up at the big event in 3 days. Later that night, I pulled up Song Yu on my screen. She was broadcasting live, sitting right on camera, and she was heading to the exact same convention. My mood instantly skyrocketed. I really wanted to see her in person. 3 days suddenly felt like an eternity away. I chatted on her live stream for a few more minutes, then finally got ready for bed. But the second I stood up, it hit me. I had totally forgotten about the system. It still owed me the reward for my last mission. The system had called it garbage that my ancestors threw away. That sounded pretty awful, but my gut told me this abandoned trash was actually going to be incredibly valuable. I opened the interface, and the system answered instantly. It told me it took a long time to finally remember. It said the 99th host had actually left a specific message just for me. I braced myself for the news. You always forget things, and if I get the chance, I should teach you a lesson. I stood there frozen. My own ancestor literally told the system that. He ordered it to scold me. I just buried my face in my hands. If this was my old man's direct command, I could not really blame the system. But the exact moment that thought crossed my mind, something shifted. A tiny void opened up deep inside my mind, and my vision started glowing. I stared into it for a second, realizing this pocket dimension felt completely detached from reality. What in the world was this bizarre digital space anyway? I asked it out loud. A portable inventory, the system explained, built from advanced spatial science. It warned I could only access about 1 cubic meter of it right now. I inhaled sharply. Just 1 cubic meter. It was incredibly tiny, yet a faint glow still shimmered right on the surface in front of me. This digital storage was totally real. 1 cubic meter was small, sure, but it could be so useful. I smiled to myself. Inside that strange dimension, floating entirely in the dark, was a tiny white porcelain vase. I stared at the strange object. Are these some kind of rare antiques? I asked. A potent aroma was already hitting me. I grabbed the antique vase and brought it right up to my nose. The scent of dried herbs was incredibly rich and sharp. I poured the contents out into my hand. 5 tiny, small black pills rolled into my palm. These are not ordinary items, the system warned me. The digital display sparked up again. It told me the 15th host once tried to craft a legendary pill, a pill that could grant eternal life. He brewed it specifically for the very first emperor of China. These dark pills are his failed prototypes. He was going to trash them, but I saved them instead. I just stood there, staring blankly at the interface. Completely speechless. Thousands of years old rejected medicine. Hold on a second, I whispered. Does my family actually have a direct connection to the first emperor? The system flared brighter. The 15th host spent years mastering this ancient craft. He studied alchemy directly under my guidance. A glowing hologram showed the vase with golden pills floating right above it. He became a true master, the system explained. Even these rejected medicinal pills can do wonders for a normal human. They can add 10 to 20 extra years to a lifespan. I leaned over the relic with a massive grin. A sudden wave of pride rushed through my veins. So what do these 5 garbage pills actually do in reality? I asked if they could genuinely extend someone's life. Negative, the system replied. A cracked pill flashed on the screen. These are defective products. They cannot do that at all. But as long as a person's body is mostly intact, as long as no arms or legs are literally missing, it continued, these pills can cure nearly any known disease, even terminal ones. My jaw slammed into the floor. I grabbed my head with both hands, totally losing my mind. The secrets I was uncovering lately were just way too much. I lost track of how many times I was left completely speechless. If these 5 little pills ever reached the medical industry, the entire world would be turned upside down. And all of this was just garbage my ancestors threw away. Could anything be more insanely wasteful? But then I grinned. Compared to those legendary ancestors, I was just a simple, careful guy. Even their discarded trash held unimaginable power. What in the world would my next mission reward look like? I desperately wanted to find out. The next objective could not come fast enough. The following morning, the massive highway was completely jammed. It looked like an endless parking lot. I sat inside my car with my eyes slammed shut. I hit brutal gridlock the second I left home. I seriously underestimated the hype for this live stream convention. Fans from across the country, thousands of fans had shown up, everyone driving the exact same way. They just wanted to meet their favorite online streamers face to face. I squeezed my eyes shut. This gridlock was not clearing up anytime soon, so I grabbed my phone. I called Teacher Piao and told him to just head into the venue without me. Normally, making my buddy wait a bit would not be a problem, but today was entirely different. Today, he was scheduled to meet a real VIP. He had a meeting with Wang Zong. His father, Wang Lin, was not the absolute richest guy in the country, but definitely top 3. No sweat, I told Teacher Piao over the phone. I will get there as soon as I can. Wang Zong was the son of a top 3 billionaire in China. I actually knew of him. He blew up online over a single arrogant quote. When I make friends, I really only care about one specific thing. I look to see if they have cash, because they never have more money than me. That one cocky flex made him an instant internet icon. And now Teacher Piao had set up a meeting with this guy. I sighed. I stared out the window. The endless sea of cars stretched to the horizon. I shifted in my seat, totally frustrated. I had been holding it together for hours, but this was pure agony. I seriously wish I owned a private jet. I muttered out loud, leaning back. The system interface instantly flared up. You actually own a private helicopter, it announced. It sits at the airport, ready anytime. I snapped my head around incredibly fast. Nearly injured my neck. My eyes went wide in pure shock. An actual luxury helicopter was just sitting there waiting for my command. Then it clicked. Even my family's fresh seafood and premium beef was shipped. Flown in entirely via private aircraft. For an insanely wealthy family like mine, having a personal chopper on standby meant nothing. Without wasting a single second, I grabbed my phone right off the console. I dialed Zhuang Ying immediately. He picked up on the very first ring. There's a massive pileup ahead, I grumbled. I've not moved an inch in hours. Is that all? Zhuang Ying chuckled casually, acting like this was absolutely nothing. No problem, sir. Your private chopper is literally always on standby over at the airport. We can touch down at your exact location in 20 minutes. 20 minutes. That was all I needed to hear. I reclined my driver's seat completely back and just shut my eyes in relief. Having endless cash was a beautiful feeling. I was finally about to escape this hellish highway traffic. Less than 20 minutes later, a deafening mechanical roar violently shook the entire sky above me. An absolutely massive, military-style black helicopter sliced straight down through the thick clouds. Downwash hammered the packed highway like a hurricane. Stranded drivers stumbled around, desperately grabbing onto anything bolted down. I peered up through my sunroof in pure awe. The aircraft was terrifyingly gigantic. I honestly expected a tiny corporate chopper. This beast was the size of heavy military transport. The violent rotor wash rocked every single vehicle trapped around me. I gripped my leather steering wheel so tight, I could literally feel the engine vibrating inside my chest. The whole car was shaking violently. The system display popped up again. I will explain, it said. This helicopter was built from a retired military aircraft. I just stared at the glowing screen. It kept speaking. Your father bought this custom chopper a few years ago for $120 million. I slumped back into my leather seat. 120 million? Damn. My dad's wild spending habits were seriously on a completely different level entirely. Every single driver around me on the road seemed totally frozen. I could see their dumbstruck faces staring right through my car windows. They were all wondering the exact same thing. Why on earth is a massive helicopter landing on the highway? One guy literally pressed his face against his glass window. He had probably never seen an aircraft this huge. Is someone injured? Do they need a hospital? The crowd was definitely thinking exactly that. But suddenly, a heavy rope ladder dropped from the helicopter, swinging wildly right above my car roof. 4 guys wearing tactical black masks climbed down one by one. Their movements were fast, sharp, and totally professional. Each one of them was carrying thick industrial ropes and secure straps. They rushed straight toward my luxury Porsche. Crouching near the wheels, they locked the heavy straps into place. Then they rigged everything with thick steel cables and bolted back up the ladder at full speed. Before I could even process what was happening, the helicopter took off, the cables snapped taut, and my Porsche was yanked right off the highway like it weighed absolutely nothing. My stomach dropped as I looked out the side window. The city streets were already fading far below us. Only one terrifying thought was spinning in my head. If these ropes snap, we fall from this crazy altitude, and nothing survives. Suddenly, the smart system screen popped up near me. "Relax," the voice said. "This military helicopter can literally lift a heavy tank. Anything under 10 tons will never snap these cables." I heard the words, but my panicked body refused to listen. My racing heart was still beating incredibly fast inside my chest. Surprisingly though, the airborne ride felt smooth, and we were flying straight toward the massive livestream tech expo.